We're here with U.S. Senator Heidi Heitkamp. This is the first time I had a chance to see you since you won. So first off, congratulations.
Well, we've hit the ground running, so we've been running all over the state.
Oh, there's not that much going on.
Yeah, no, not at all. Just housing crises and water crises and budget crises and ag. We still don't have an ag bill, and so life is busy.
And this whole gun control thing, which I want to get your comments on. So obviously Mayor Bloomberg, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, takes this basically attack ad out on you, and I'm curious how the people of North Dakota respond. Is your office getting flooded with phone calls? They're like,
no.
Hey, good for you, Heidi.
No, I think, I think when you're clear about your position and you're clear about where you're at, I think people understand that as someone taking out an ad and calling the office isn't going to have much of an impact. And I don't know where it is, how that works where he lives, but it doesn't work in North Dakota.
Well, and thank you for your stance against President Obama.
And my whole point is, I think that we need to have a very serious conversation about what happened in Tucson, what happened in Aurora, California, or Colorado, and what happened in Sandy Hook, because no one's having that conversation about how we prevent young men who are absolutely disturbed from doing this kind of damage to families and communities and really turning everything upside down, and we aren't having that conversation. And that's been my frustration, is that it's all focused on guns, because I think people who look at this have used it as an opportunity to raise this issue. Not that this is going to solve the problem, but now here's our opportunity to use this to raise the issue. And my argument is, let's talk about the issue of mental health.
With that being said, as you know, the Fargo mayor here, Dennis Walker, is part of Mayors Against Illegal Guns, which has taken this attack ad on you. What would you say to Mayor Walker?
Well, I mean, I love Denny Walker. I think that that's not necessarily where he would be at. We're all part of organizations that we wouldn't necessarily agree with everything that they do. And so I think it's more important. I don't worry so much about Mayor Bloomberg or about what somebody outside of North Dakota thinks. I worry more about representing my constituents and representing my beliefs.
As you know, Congressman Kramer got in some heat about some comments that he's made recently. His concerns are really about the constitutionality of the Violence Against Women Act. You're a former Attorney General. He's saying that this might get overturned by the Supreme Court because of the Due Process Clause. Your thoughts are?
He's wrong.
Why specifically?
Because this has been briefed by the Justice Department. I think that the requirements of due process have been embedded into the Violence Against Women Act in terms of access to counsel, in terms of being read your rights, and so all of the things that courts would be required to do and that law enforcement would be required to do are going to be required in law-trained courts. And I look at this no different than if someone committed a crime in Minnesota and was a North Dakota resident, you'd be expected to go to Minnesota court. And so I think it's unfortunate that he's taken this position on a bill that he voted for.
That's a big distinction. I mean, you're talking about sovereignty of a reservation of a nation versus state rights is a different distinction. And my question to you is, do you think that a non-native is going to get a fair trial within these tribal courts?
Absolutely.
So I want to read something to you. This is from a former tribal judge, Molly McDonald. She says, in my opinion, I believe the statements made by Kevin Kramer, as they were quoted by Melissa Merrick, are correct. If our own Native people can't get a fair trial in Spirit Lake Tribal Court, how could a white person possibly get one? The appeals process set in place is no longer even any good right now at Spirit Lake Nation because they didn't spend the $3,000 for the appeals court.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, I think that as we amp up, as we develop processes on the reservations to meet the requirements that are in the law for due process, that I have no problem with constitutionality of that act.
Did you meet with Melissa Merrick privately the day after this meeting with Kevin Kramer?
No, I didn't meet ever with her privately. What happened is I was speaking in both the chambers, both the House and the Senate. There was presentations outside in between the two chambers from the domestic violence community, and I was approached by people who were there, explaining what it is that they do to the legislature. And she was not the first person who approached me. In fact, in that discussion, it turned into a group discussion right there in the hallway. A lot of people raised concerns about comments before Melissa even spoke up.
The other aspect is this. Are you familiar with Mr. Tom Sullivan's mandated reports?
Yeah, I am.
So my question for you is, you travel around the state talking about violence against women, but no statement, no comments about child and kids being raped and molested at Spirit Lake.
That's really not true. In fact, I went to Spirit Lake and did a town hall on domestic violence, spent some time talking to leaders there, spent some time talking to the BIA. that's an incorrect.
Do you think the BIA and FBI are doing their job there?
It's hard to know. We're monitoring it very closely. One of the concerns that I have is that we not replace one system that failed to respond adequately to children with another. And that's why we are monitoring the BIA very closely.
What are you going to do as a U.S. Senator to ensure that these kids are not safe?
Everything that I can.
What does that mean specifically?
Well, what it means is holding people accountable who are required to keep people safe and work in a government-to-government relationship collaboratively. The concern that I have is frequently in these situations, you shine the bright light, people do the window dressing, but we don't fix the system behind it. And what I'm really looking at is what do we need to do working in a respectful government-to-government relationship to fix the problems behind it and move forward. And obviously, there is the poverty issues play into this. There is no excuse. Trust me, I have said frequently, it doesn't cost you anything to love your children and respect your children and keep your children safe. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. And so we need to have the mandate that we've put out to BIA is to investigate every complaint, put a report together on every complaint. I think a lot of frustration North Dakotans have with this is that they don't understand the federal system. Federal system is a grand jury system. That's a secret process. They can't really report what's happening in grand jury, and I suspect, they've never even told me they've gone to grand jury, but I suspect that they've gone to grand jury on a number of these incidences, and we're going to see something coming from the U.S. Attorney and the Department of Justice.
I want to get your thoughts on Governor Dalrymple signed these life bills into law recently. There's articles coming out now that women of North Dakota are being tortured, all these different pieces, if you will. Yeah, it was in a piece that was shocking, but just your feelings about these life bills.
Well, I think that right now, I don't think there's any doubt that they are not consistent with Roe v. Wade. And so chances are we are going to spend a lot of money defending bills that are not consistent with Roe v. Wade, when we could in fact be doing a whole lot with those resources to help prevent pregnancy and to prevent to help women who make a choice to carry a baby to term with daycare, with health care, with the things that drive some of these decisions. And so I think that it's short-sighted. I think that those people who hope desperately that this will lead to a reversal of Roe v. Wade, I think are misguided.
So part of the Roe v. Wade decision is that women obviously have the right to an abortion, but that right must be balanced against the state's two legitimate interests in regulating abortions, protecting prenatal life and protecting women's health. So how is what we've proposed here in North Dakota inconsistent with Roe v. Wade?
I think that what you've done is you've endangered a woman's life by interfering with her relationship with her physician. You have now put restrictions on the medical community in terms of how they can, in fact, advise and treat a woman who's a patient. And I think that is a breach that is deep, and it is why you're seeing the reaction that you're seeing from the medical community and why you're seeing the reaction you're seeing from women. That this is a decision that does not belong in the North Dakota legislature. This is a decision that is being pushed by a very small group of folks who want to pursue an agenda of reversal of Roe v. Wade.
Well, this had bipartisan support. I mean, about 25–30% of Democrats voted for this as well. Plus, you've got Gonzalez versus the Planned Parenthood Federation, which allows states to impose those restrictions on abortion. So should this be a state matter or a federal matter? Yeah,
Chris, I know a little bit about this because I've successfully defended 24-hour waiting periods in North Dakota's legislative 24-hour waiting periods and informed consent. And so I know a little bit about this area, and I can tell you that in my judgment, looking at those three bills, at least two of them are unconstitutional.
How much do you think it's going to cost the state?
This promise of help someplace else, I always laugh. Number one, legally, there's a real party in interest, and to just take North Dakota's interest and give it to a nonprofit or give it to another organization, in my opinion, borders on unethical. We have to defend what the state legislature did. I think it's going to be very costly, and in fact, if it's overturned, I think you might even see the risk of getting extra penalties because it's a violation of people's constitutional rights.
You came out with a statement on Friday about gay marriage. In your opinion, is it constitutional for the Supreme Court to define marriage federally?
Is it constitutional for the Supreme Court to define marriage federally? I don't think the Supreme Court's going to do it. I think what's likely going to happen with the Supreme Court decisions is that they are going to reverse DOMA under a long-standing principle that states are, in fact, the 10th Amendment gives the states the rights to determine and the definition of marriage. And so what it will mean is that the state-by-state decisions that have been made, Massachusetts, Iowa, whatever, wherever we head, cannot be overturned by the United States Congress. Then I think what they're likely to do in California is not engage. I think they're looking for a way out to basically say the California courts have made the decision, this case isn't right, we have the wrong plaintiff here. The state of California has not petitioned us. They have not defended their own statute, and so we aren't the right forum at this point. I think they'll leave the question of the constitutionality of or the constitutional right to marriage equality for another day.
Thanks for all your hard work.
You bet.
You're doing a great job and appreciate
bet.
your time. U.S. Senator Heidi Heitkamp, stay with us. We'll get to your feedback. Again, go to our website, 630pov.com.
Furniture